it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, as per usual, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. As usual, I have my wicked candle in here making the whole room smell like caramel apple, and I have my hot chocolate candle in here, and I'm not lighting either of them because I don't want to, but they're strong enough that I don't really need to light them. So I do want to say I'm sorry that I took such a long break. It's been like 12 days or something since my last video, or 13 days since my last video. I had one scheduled to go up last week, but I'm still waiting for approval from the brand to post. So that one is sitting currently private. It has already been edited and ready to go, but I have to wait for them to approve it. So I didn't have any other videos last week, so I do apologize for that. And it's been crazy busy here and crazy smoky here. We made it in Alberta to the worst air quality chart index for the entire world. We were 16 on Saturday. That's how bad the wildfires are in Alberta right now, and the smoke. Like, we've been locked in our houses just like trying to breathe, and I haven't really been in the mood to film because I haven't been able to breathe because I have asthma, and the smoke is freaking killing me. And it's literally so bad that if you go to like Home Depot or something and you're in like the plant section outside, your eyes will literally start to water and burn because the ash and the smoke is just so intense in the area that I live in. The wildfires are absolutely out of control right now in Alberta, so I've been locked inside, not filming because my eyes are watering and I can't breathe, and it's just been not a fun time. I have a bunch of scary stories that I want to read with all of that out of the way. So I actually have a update from a story that I read a while ago. I don't know how long ago it was, but she's just sent me a DM and it was more to her stories. She just sent me a DM, so I'm just going to read the DM. This is a Let's Not Meet story. Okay, so I was in about 6th or 7th grade, I can't remember, but I was home alone as my mom was working. My dad and my siblings were out, and at the time, I didn't have a phone for reasons I don't really want to get into. So I went downstairs to check the time as I was curious what time it was and how much longer until my mom would get home. It was around 8:32 p.m. I believe that was the exact time to my memory. In my living room, there was a door, which led to the road, and a huge window facing the road. I noticed somebody walking past the window, and me being me, I was like, I wonder who that is. They noticed me standing in the living room and stopped dead in their tracks and looked at me. I have bad anxiety, like super bad, so I kind of freaked out and ran into the kitchen and had a panic attack. As I calmed down, I decided to go check if they were gone. They were not gone. They were even closer, like way closer to my window. So I got sent into another panic attack. I went back to my kitchen and called my mom's work. She's never left the phone number before, but that day she decided to. I explained what was going on, and she knew I was having trouble breathing and told me to walk out the front door where the motherfucker was standing and to walk up to her work. I then said, can I go over to my neighbor's house and then she could walk over with me to your work? And my mom agreed. So I did that. I walked out the opposite door and bolted to her house and told her what had happened and asked if she would walk with me to my mom's work. Her dad said no, but she did stand in the doorway, and her little brother stood out there on their step until they thought it might have made it to my mom's work, which was only about 15-minute walk, probably less. As I jogged across the road, I heard somebody yelling that they were trying to yell my name, but was saying it wrong. I heard my friend's brother, we'll say his name is S, telling me to run. There's someone chasing you. Run. So I bolted and finally made it to my mom's work. She said she was waiting for a phone call back from her boss to give her the okay for her to go home. The reason her boss let her go home was because my mom said I was out playing Spotlight with a few of my buddies and had tripped and hurt my ankle, and she had to come home and take me to the hospital. I just hope my mom's boss didn't look at the cameras, because then she would have known that my mom had lied. But whoever that person was that was staring at me through my living room window and then chased me trying to say my name, I hope I never meet you again. I now have panic attacks if I'm home alone and have any curtains opened. Also, I have many more Let's Not Meet stories and paranormal stories. So many creepy stories. I'll definitely share more if you want to read them. Also, you can read this on your channel if you would like. I love your channel. So thank you so much for sending me that. That's really creepy. I don't really understand why your mom had to lie to her boss. I would have literally just been like, someone's trying to break into my house, I'm going. End of story. Like, I wouldn't have lied to my boss. I would have just straight up told him what was going on and then went home and found my kid, because you're in danger. That's a really fucking creepy story, and I'm glad you're okay, but oh my goodness, that is so creepy. And people are fucking weird. Like, I don't understand why people do that. That's just odd. I hate that. And the fact that he chased you, like, what the fuck? The next one is from this spoopy Cjades section again, and it's from the Reddit author Ruby's in the Rough, and it's titled, It Kept Coming Back. To say my parents were frugal during my childhood is an understatement. They were penny pitchers to the extreme, and even though they could easily afford otherwise, 90% of the gifts I received for birthdays and Christmas were from secondhand stores. One of these was a cheap styling head doll, basically just a head and shoulders on a stand with long hair to practice hairstyles on. I loved it, but like with all kids and their toys, the novelty soon wore off and it wound up sitting in my closet, in the bedroom I share with my sister. For a few months, there was nothing weird about this styling head, and I eventually decided to just donate it back to the store my parents got it from. So some other kid could play with it and buy it, and I lost interest in hairstyling in general. I put it in a bag with a handful of other toys and clothes to donate, and my mom dropped it off at the store. I watched her put it in the bag in the donation box. When I got home, there was the styling head, still sitting in my closet, where I was sure I grabbed it from earlier. I figured it was no big deal, maybe I just misremembered and only believed I'd put it in the bag and had spaced. No problem. The next time my mom was planning a trip into town, I once again loaded up a small bag of things to donate and made absolutely sure I put the styling head in the bag. I even had my sister verify that yes, it was in there. And my mom took it when she went to the store and said that she dropped it off. Yet, a couple of days later, I opened my closet and there it was again. I was really confused. I was so sure I donated it. My sister had even told me it was in the bag. She double checked with me, and that's when I started getting nervous. Something was off. So I took the styling head and I brought it down into our basement and put it in the furthest back corner behind some storage bins. I thought that was that, but the very next morning, it was sitting right in front of my bedroom door when I opened it, sitting upright and facing me like it was waiting for me. I was scared, but I also have two brothers, and I figured they were being buttheads and somehow knew I was getting scared of this doll, and maybe they'd put it there to mess with me. But they denied it when I confronted them. I tossed the styling head back into the basement, but this time, I hid it down there even better when I was sure no one was paying attention, so my brothers wouldn't know where I hid it, just in case they had done it. And the next morning, the styling head was outside my bedroom door. I was terrified at this point, and I remembered reading somewhere that salt helps with scary things, so I doused the styling head in salt and brought it back downstairs and just threw it into the basement, way into the very back where no one ever looked. It didn't come back after that, and I'm pretty sure it's still down in the basement, almost 20 years later, but I'm definitely not going down there to look when I visit. And that's how they ended the story. That's super creepy. Okay, my eyelash is lifting. If you see my eyelash lifting in this video, just please ignore it because for whatever reason, it doesn't want to stay glued down and it's being annoying. And it's kind of tickling my inner eye. It's freaking weird. So thank you so much for allowing me to read your story. That was really fucking creepy, and I don't know what I would do. I would keep trying to get rid of it because that's fucking terrifying. This is from the same Reddit author. She sent me a bunch of her stories. She sent me these a long time ago, so I'm just now getting to them. This one's titled Lights in the Field. The room I shared with my older sister and then my younger sister sat facing out across the yard and towards this field that stretched out around the farm I grew up on. This field was massive, almost half a mile across, with a swamp and a neighboring field on the other side. Something important to note, and that this will be important later, there was no roads in this direction, only field and swamp leading into more field. I don't remember the first time we saw it, but I was young. Couldn't have been more than 9, around midsummer. I woke up to see lights in the field, past the line of pine trees and the edge of the yard. They looked huge, like they were back toward the middle of the land, about 5 of them slowly moving back and forth, collectively. I remember my older brother, then around 12, coming into me and my older sister's room and asking us if we were seeing the same thing. Scared, I went to wake up my parents. My mom took a look, then told me to go back to sleep. It was just neighboring farmers doing some late night work out in the fields. I passed this message on to my siblings, and we all went back to bed, believing it. At the time, this explanation made sense, and the area around us was farmland. It was in the middle of a growing season, and it wasn't unusual for farmers to be out on their tractors way past dark. Though, this made less sense the next time we saw it. It was a few months later, into the beginning of winter. There was snow on the ground, and all the crops had been harvested. Farm equipment was put away for the year, and I still woke up and saw those exact same lights in the exact same way. 5 of them, huge, moving slowly back and forth in the field. I woke up my sister and my brother. He took out a disposable camera and took a few pictures out that way. We woke up our parents, but they didn't even bother to look. They just told us it was nothing and that we needed to go back to sleep. Of course, we didn't. We were scared. We made snacks and all sat together, me and my sister's room on the floor by the window, just watching these lights drift back and forth for over an hour until we were too tired to stay up any longer. I still have no idea what they could have been, even now. The first night, it's possible it was farmers out working, but the second night, it couldn't have been. And as stated before, there was no roads that direction, meaning it couldn't have been lights or reflections from passing cars or trucks. And as added weirdness, the camera my brother tried to take pictures of vanished. And it was a wide, bulky camera in bright colors, so it was pretty hard to misplace. But yet, no one seems to know where it went. Altogether, it's just a very weird experience that me and my siblings and I still talk about every once in a while. So that's really creepy. I have no idea what that could be. That just makes me think of like aliens, but I don't know. That's super freaking creepy. So this one's from the Reddit author HR Welsh, and they wanted me to actually credit and shout out their subreddit. So I'm gonna post everything down below in my description box, but this one is titled, I have to make this quick, something bit my hand. So this one is just like a fictional story, but it's still really creepy and it's really well written, so I'm very excited to read it. What you're about to read is both a confession and an apology. I don't know how much time I have, so I'll keep it as short as I can. I was coming back home from work a few nights ago. It was dark, and I was tired from my shift, when suddenly, a deer ran out in front of my truck. I locked my brakes, but I didn't stop in time. The feeling in my heart pounding, I just sat in my truck, staring at the motionless deer laying in the middle of the road. I had never killed anything before, intentionally or accidentally. As much as I wanted to get home, take a shower, and go to bed, I couldn't just let it lay there. Someone could run it over, causing real damage to their undercarriage, or God forbid, they swerve to avoid it and end up falling over 100 feet into the river below, hitting dozens of trees on the way down. I couldn't let that be on my conscience. So I did what any good Lord Jesus would have done. I put on my emergency lights and got out of the truck to pull the carcass off the road. However, as I was doing this, I saw something move in the deer's lower gut. Seeing this made my heart sink because at the time, I thought maybe the dead deer was going to give birth. While holding in a gag and pulling the body to get off the road, whatever was in the deer crawled out of its backside, ran up the leg I was holding onto, and bit me. It was too fast and the night was too dark, so I have no idea what it could have been. Instinctively, I flung the creature off me and I heard it scamper away through the grass. Wondering what the hell just attacked me, I inspected the wound. The wound produced very little blood and looked no worse than what a cat would do when it plays a little too roughly. Since my heart was pounding out of my chest and I had most of the deer carcass off the road, I had figured I had done my duty and it was time to head home. As soon as I got home, I barely had the energy to take off my clothes, so all hopes I had of taking a shower were lost. And as soon as my head hit the pillow, I was out like a light. The next morning, I felt sluggish and cold. My teeth were chattering violently. It reminded me of the flu. However, my nose wasn't stuffed up and I wasn't congested. The wound on my hand was red, but not swollen. Still, I was worried and made a call to set up with a doctor appointment. Thankfully, I was able to get seen right away. However, after the exam, the doctor said he could find nothing wrong with me, but the blood test would take a few days before the results would come in. I'm not the kind of person to tell someone how to do their job, especially if their job meant years of education and twice that many having their own practice. However, I made it clear that I strongly disagreed with what the doctor said. When I got home, my stomach was complaining. I ate shortly before getting off work the day before, so there was no reason for my stomach to complain as much as it was. I tried eating soup, but it tasted like fermented compost. No joke, that's what it tasted like. When I checked the expiration date, I was surprised that I still had 8 months left before it was considered bad. At the time, I figured that whatever was wrong with me was affecting my senses. My grandma said that 7-Up and ginger ale was as close to magic as it gets when you become sick. But since I didn't have any in the house, I made a few calls and had it delivered. However, that too tasted bad. My stomach kept complaining, so in an attempt to silence it, I decided to make something that I could never resist. My mom's specialty, meatloaf. If nothing else, it was comfort food and my favorite as a kid. Lo and behold, it tasted amazing. However, when I tried adding ketchup, like I always did, I nearly gagged at the smell of it. I ended up eating all of this in a single sitting, and afterwards, I felt really good. So good, in fact, that I decided to head into town to pick up some groceries. As I walked around with the shopping cart, going down the same aisles as I always did, the items I usually got had no appeal. I love bananas, but they smelled like they had been soaking in gasoline. The vegetables stank of curdled milk, and the cheese might as well have been. Well, I'll let you imagine what that smelled like. The only thing that smelled good was meat. No, it didn't smell good. It smelled divine, the way I imagine heaven smells like. I filled up my cart with hamburger, chicken breast, pork chops, pork butt, whole turkeys, chicken legs, ribs, spiral hams, bacon, hot dogs, and so much more. People looked at me funny as I went to pay for the items, and some even asked if I was planning to have a cookout. I am ashamed to admit it, but I snapped at those people and told them that it wasn't any of their business. When I got home, I felt sick again and decided that some pork chops were in order. As I started to get everything ready, I opened the cream of mushrooms and the smell that emerged from the can made me throw up in the sink. Later, I checked the expiration date and saw that it still had a few months to go. The can wasn't dented or punctured, so there was no reason for it to smell rancid. I cooked the pork chops plain, only adding a little olive oil at the bottom of the glassware so it wouldn't stick. The wait seemed to take forever. At some point, before the pork chops were done, I found myself mindlessly eating away at raw hamburger meat, taking grape-sized pinches here and there. I knew it was disgusting, but I couldn't stop myself. Each bite hit the spot and scratched an itch I didn't know I had. By this time, it was after office hours, so I called the general practitioner to see if there was any updates. All the while, I kept eating raw hamburger. I was too embarrassed to tell them about my new eating habits, so I instead sounded like an idiot when I had nothing to say other than to ask about the blood test, which I knew the results would be in sometime next week. Because of this, I could tell the person on the other line was annoyed. I spent the rest of the day eating and worrying. I must have paced for a few miles before I decided to go to bed. At the time, I figured that I might be able to sleep off whatever was happening to me, and if this was not to be, it would make the day that the blood tests come in arrive faster. However, I couldn't go a few hours without food before the cravings made me wake up rummaging through the fridge. I blacked out at some point during the night and found myself outside at the wooden fence, trying to bait the neighbor's cat with a raw chicken leg that I had already eaten half of. I was scared, paranoid that whatever bit my hand might have given me something really nasty, but I knew that worrying about it wasn't going to do me any favor, so I decided to do what I normally do to clear my head and went for a drive. Usually, this would have worked, but my stomach kept complaining. I had been eating for nearly a day straight, so I knew I wasn't hungry. What else could I do other than wait for the blood test to come back? Trying to distract myself, I decided to turn on the radio and listen to one of the 3 radio stations that worked in town. As I was fumbling with the knobs in my old beat-up truck, I turned to the corner and saw a man walking across the street to get his mail. I hit the brakes as hard as I could, but I was a little too late, and he bounced off the grill and went flying through the air. Terrified, I ran out to see if there was anything I could do to help him, but when I drew close, I could see that he was all sorts of messed up. A broken shoulder on one side, and his leg was bent in a horrible angle. He was conscious and asked me to give him a ride to the hospital because he would not be able to afford the bill of an ambulance. However, this is when I noticed that his femur was sticking out of his leg. I licked my lips before I knew it, and I started biting and eating around the bone as the man screamed, and in his condition, he was unable to get away or fight me off. I don't know how much time passed, but at this point, I became aware that people were starting to gather. All of them were too shocked to do anything but stare. Embarrassed and terrified, I ran to the truck and I drove off. It wasn't like I could do anything, since Grey Hill is a small town. Most of the onlookers knew who I was. So I did the only thing I could think of and went home. There is so much more I want to say, but I don't have much time. The sirens are getting closer. I am sorry. And that's at the end of the story. That's so fucking creepy. So that one's obviously fictional. So I'll put a trigger warning at the beginning of that video because it's kind of gross and you may not want to listen to that if you're sensitive to that kind of thing. But it's a really well-written story and it's obviously fictional, but it's really creepy and it fit the theme. So this is where I'm going to end the video because we are already at the 22-minute mark and I know my camera is going to overheat. So I'm going to try to get about 2 or 3 more videos posted this week just because I've taken such a long break. And now that the smoke is starting to finally clear and I can breathe a little bit better, I'm hoping I can film a little bit more. And my boyfriend is since gone back out of town, so I'm all alone and I can film and be as loud as I want. So this is where I'm going to end the video, and I'm hoping to get more videos up this week. If you guys did make it to the end of this video, please leave me your favorite summer emoji. So leave me whatever summer emoji that you guys deem fit. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below for more content like this. Also, if you guys have any scary stories, any paranormal stories, any Let's Not Meet stories, or any creepy stories in general that you want to share with the channel, please feel free to message me on Instagram, or you can send me an email to my email. All of my information is listed down below in the description box. That's where all of the stories are also listed if you guys want to go read them yourself. And in a pinned comment down below, that is where all of my socials are. So please feel free to message me on Instagram or email me, and I will definitely read your stories as soon as I possibly can. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys at the next one. Bye.